This week's already been crazy, but the important stuff's about to begin. So, thoughts, predictions. We're going to go into this game quite a bit here as Georgia opens up as a 6.5 favorite over the Crimson Tide. Georgia, the number one team in the country, dominant all season long. Alabama, pardon the red lips, I'm drinking some red Powerade here. Alabama, not as dominant as we've seen in the past, but here they are, 11-1 in the SEC championship game. Few big wins over Mississippi State, Ole Miss, some squeakers last week against Auburn, Arkansas. Georgia, they played the one against Clemson, and it's a crazy stat that was tweeted out that I just found absurd as we're going to talk generally here as people pile in. Second half drives this season from Bill Connolly from ESPN. Second half drives with a scoring margin under 14 points. Alabama 33, which is tied for fourth with Cincinnati, Pitt, and Coastal Carolina. Georgia 6. 6 times the margin has been under 2 touchdowns for an offensive drive or a defensive drive against, and 5 of those drives were against the Clemson Tigers in the first game of the year. So in 11 games, once has a team been under 2 touchdowns in the second half with the ball. It's absurd how good Georgia has been this year, especially on defense. But what can Alabama exploit? What does Alabama do well? And what are the ways they can win this game? Because a lot of people have gone into this game, and I did it this weekend before I really looked into the numbers, that Alabama's a really good team. But Georgia is the one team in college football this season that I think could compete nationally every year. They could compete with last year's Alabama team with that defense. They could compete with 2019 LSU, 2018 Clemson's team. What up, Ben? And this team is special. I think so, but we'll see this weekend. Even if Georgia loses, I still think they're in the playoff. But now it's just going to come down to seeding. Georgia's in a really advantageous spot here where even if they lose this game, more likely than not, they're going to have to lose. Alabama's going to have to beat them again, or somebody's going to have to beat them. They're in a really advantageous spot for a national championship this year. But can Alabama provide a way to beat them, as they've looked undeniably excellent this year? I mean, you look at the defense, no one's going to run the ball in this game. No one is. Alabama is 4th in the country in yards per game against it, 80.6 yards per game. That's pretty freaking good. 2.42 yards per rush. They allowed 8 rushing touchdowns all season long. Georgia, on the other hand, slightly better, 78.9 yards per game against. They allowed 2 touchdowns, all absurd, and 2.48 yards per carry. And again, these two teams, their rush defenses are just dominant. They're dominant. However, the UGA pass defense has also been excellent all year. And there's no denying that, while the Alabama rush or pass defense leaves a lot to be desired. Let me see here. Yes. I mean, Georgia's only given up 230 yards per game. That's for best in the country. Alabama's 7th. They're really good defensively, but 294 yards per game.